This evening's segment begins with a line that sits uncomfortably in standard media coverage. The Defense Department is running scenarios on Nigeria, not some theatrical invasion exercise, not a photo op mission. Actual operational preparation, triggered when political noise from Capitol Hill crossed the ocean and landed hard in Abuja. An American president floated cutting assistance, launching military strikes, and eliminating the extremists slaughtering innocents. Nigeria's response came with the weary confidence of seasoned professionals. If genuine commitment to counterterrorism exists, negotiations proceed on principles that honor our independence. That's when the story graduated from sensational fodder to the kind of dense, layered narrative that genuinely affects people's existence. The significance demands explanation. Nigeria isn't some neat strategic map. It's a nation exceeding 220 million inhabitants, divided roughly half and half between Christian and Muslim populations, stretching from Atlantic port metropolises through grasslands into semi-arid zones, bound together by commercial networks, kinship structures, and occasionally precarious solidarity. Through that social weave, over 10 years of armed conflict carved brutal ruptures. Initially Boko Haram, subsequently its more vicious, better organized affiliates pledging allegiance to the Islamic State. These organizations butcher non-combatants, abduct schoolchildren, extract tribute through intimidation, and adapt after every failed attempt to eliminate them. Show up brandishing empty rhetoric and limited commitment. They'll stage your triumph and deliver your collapse. Let's track backward through events. Boko Haram didn't emerge as some overwhelming military force. It started as ideology that morphed into uprising, then terror apparatus, then transnational network. Post-2009, its operations expanded throughout the Northeast, Yobe, Borno, Adamawa. When internal fractures occurred, the Islamic State West Africa province adopted a colder, more calculated approach. Reduced random carnage, intensified pressure on installations and supply lines, heightened focus on messaging and shadow administration. That transformation represents the crucial insight. This transcends mere bloodshed. It's a systematic effort to render the state invisible and meaningless. The Nigerian government never validated that narrative. It suffered resisting it. Military formations deployed into the Northeast. Elite formations rotated through forests and archipelagos surrounding Lake Chad. Air assets conducted combat sorties, occasionally using obsolete equipment, more recently employing precision capabilities from upgraded platforms. Outcomes proved inconclusive. Settlements liberated then contested again. Counterinsurgency becomes a protracted, grim accounting where progress measures in feet and setbacks tally in coffins. When Washington's language jumped from silence to potential unilateral intervention, operations specialists responded according to protocol. Authentic military engagement in Nigeria doesn't mean armored brigades rolling forward. It constitutes an integrated system. Intelligence collection and surveillance platforms track hostile movement patterns. Coordination centers merge ground-level intelligence with electronic intercepts and overhead imagery. Elite military counselors assist local forces in refining targeting procedures. Locate, isolate, neutralize, extract intelligence, assess results. Consider the underlying dynamics. Nigeria emphasized national authority. Abuja didn't flinch at phrases like counterterrorism cooperation. It underlined, honor our independence, emphatically. That's not hypersensitive patriotism. It's preventing counterterrorism collaboration from transforming into occupation discourse. It's also preserving governmental credibility among your own population, Christian and Muslim alike, who've mourned losses across every demographic. Pause momentarily and dispel one recurring misconception. The principal architects of atrocity aren't the Nigerian government and aren't any singular faith community. The primary executors of mass violence are extremist militant organizations, frequently carrying Islamic State affiliation, who've demonstrated willingness to slaughter anyone they designate hostile. Christians have suffered targeted killings and massacres. Muslims have too, frequently in greater absolute numbers throughout the predominantly Muslim North, because that geography hosts the most intense combat. What constitutes a prudent American strategy? Begin with minimal presence and maximum information gathering. That translates to unmanned and crewed reconnaissance platforms maintaining continuous coverage over conflict areas, uninterrupted communications monitoring that identifies command networks through behavioral patterns, and intelligence professionals who genuinely distinguish between domestic quarrels and operational preparation. Channel that intelligence into joint coordination hubs staffed by Nigerian commanders possessing regional understanding alongside American experts who've constructed similar frameworks across Iraq, Syria, Somalia, and the Philippines. The subsequent level involves advisors authorized to advance with Nigerian formations to the final protective position. Advisors needn't pull triggers to influence outcomes. They must assist indigenous commanders in synchronizing operations, circumventing predictable traps, and capitalizing on those critical moments following initial engagement. This form of partnership represents where campaigns succeed discreetly or fail equally quietly, because excellence in tactical decision-making determines everything. The final level generates media excitement while alarming legal advisors, constrained direct intervention by American forces. That's an elevated threshold, appropriately so. Authorization comes exclusively when the objective merits priority. Target identification achieves clarity, aerial coordination is established, and host nation authorities request the strike. To address hardware, because machinery proves critical when lives depend on it. Nigeria's arsenal represents a mixture of aging Soviet-origin systems, Western aviation assets, and recent purchases. The A-29 Super Tucano Squadron delivered accurate ground attack capability with reduced operational demands. Rotary-wing gunships prove essential for environments like dense forest expanses and the Lake Chad archipelago. Specialized infantry formations achieve lethality proportional to their supply chain effectiveness. Can you maintain vehicle fuel supplies, coordinate indirect fire assets, ensure medical evacuation readiness, and sustain radio communications when seasonal dust storms saturate the atmosphere? That's where external cooperation transforms courageous formations into sustainable ones. Terrain functions as an accomplice. Northeastern Nigeria transitions seamlessly into Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, frontier zones featuring more informal crossing points than official posts. Without advanced coordination for transnational pursuit, your most successful operation in Borno risks becoming catastrophic at Lake Chad when adversaries cross jurisdictional boundaries. Now, the difficult civilian reality. Militants operate within population centers. They purchase provisions from identical vendors as those they intimidate. When your mission demolishes a marketplace or misreads a community event, the consequences transcend ethics. They become operational. You can obliterate half a year of painstaking community engagement in moments. Domestic American politics function simultaneously as catalyst and poison. Certain constituencies frame this as religious warfare protecting Christians. Others characterize any intervention as imperial overreach. Both narratives generate compelling television segments and disastrous strategy. The honest assessment remains stark. Collaboratively eliminate Islamic State-affiliated militants murdering non-combatants, enhance Nigeria's governance and protection capabilities, and withdraw having improved bilateral relations. Great power competition hums beneath everything. The Sahel and surrounding territories have become contested ground for security partnerships. Following military coups in certain nations, Western contingents faced expulsion while Russian paramilitary ecosystems established presence. Nigeria isn't governed by military leadership. It's a turbulent, sovereign democracy possessing agency and alternatives. What about funding and legal frameworks? Assistance transcends simple incentives. It constitutes operational infrastructure, instruction programs, equipment sustainment arrangements, professional military education opportunities, classified information exchange protocols. Threatening wholesale elimination generates headlines. Calibrated adjustment produces results. Let's anchor this in tangible operational experience. Consider intelligence arriving at daybreak. A middle-tier ISWAP leader is convening with 3 subordinates near a waterway dock. Reconnaissance redirects unmanned surveillance to monitor the dock. An embedded advisor quietly advocates restraint. Withhold engagement on the initial vehicle, monitor for the secondary vessel. Once both objectives converge, the ground element positions to seal the sole escape route, and aviation delivers a precisely calibrated strike. No media coverage, no triumphant announcements, but the organization destabilizes. Simultaneously, populations require tangible improvements beyond rhetoric. Refugee populations return only when homecoming doesn't constitute reckless endangerment. The most powerful communication to insurgents isn't intimidation. It's documentation of a functioning school where educators originate from neighboring communities and armed personnel wear standardized uniforms under legitimate command authority. Now, let's confront the obvious tension: timeframes. Politicians demand speed. Counterinsurgency demands meticulousness. The difficulty lies marketing the latter in an environment craving the former. That's genuine leadership. It's articulating honest assessments about the duration required to develop intelligence frameworks that preserve lives, not merely eliminate threats. An effective U.S.-Nigeria operation establishes meaningful benchmarks: decreased non-combatant casualty rates, improved interception of contraband fuel and munitions trafficking, voluntary surrenders from middle-ranking operatives, territories maintained 6 months without significant hostile activity. These aren't compelling statistics, but they're the indicators that shift trajectories. Will complications emerge? Inevitably. Certain commanders will resent external counsel. Weather conditions will abort missions. Communications equipment will fail. None of this signals mission failure. It signals mission humanity. The genuine evaluation is whether the partnership learns more rapidly than adversaries evolve. Let's discuss desired conclusions, because eliminate adversaries lack strategic coherence. The sustainable result is a Nigeria where extremist networks cannot consolidate forces, cannot extract revenue, cannot openly enlist followers, and cannot simulate legitimate authority. It's military forces capable of coordinating multi-formation operations without requiring external troubleshooting of supply chains. What's sacrificed through failure? We fertilize ideological territory for extremists promising stability through violence. We transfer influence to external powers marketing security as ongoing service contracts and democratic governance as weakness. We demonstrate to allies that American commitments resemble fireworks: dramatic, attractive, and evaporated by dawn. So here's the question that should conclude every deliberation on this matter. Will the strategy you're authorizing today increase the probability 6 months forward that a mother in Borno can escort her daughter to education without anxiety? If the truthful response is negative, revise the strategy or abandon the publicity event. Nigeria didn't request American theatrics. It requested disciplined cooperation against individuals profiting from instability. The Defense Department is justified in planning. Abuja is justified demanding sovereignty. The operation, if executed, will succeed or fail not through media coverage, but during quiet intervals when intelligence professionals identify patterns, when commanders withhold engagement because target clarity is insufficient, when a unit pauses for dialogue instead of advancing aggressively. That's not rapid, brutal, and gratifying. It's more gradual, more consistent, and authentic. And in conflicts like this, authenticity is the exclusive path to victory.